Welcome back to another episode with the Vuvuzela. Today we're welcoming Ness from Boyson Inc. back again to discuss a little bit more about what she does, something that's, I think, on a lot of people's minds, happening on the increase. Welcome, Ness.
Thank you very much, Marcel. I'm happy to be back. So, as we discussed previously, my firm specializes in debt review and administration orders, but I personally have a particular interest in domestic violence, which is a very current issue that many South Africans and people around the world are experiencing.
Ness, with COVID-19, stress levels are high, and I'm sure that domestic violence has increased. Tell us a little bit more about what you're experiencing.
Yes, people are living in very close proximity to each other. They are locked in a house with their partners, with their families, and the situation can become very acrimonious, and some people don't deal with stress well, and it exhibits in a very violent way. But something that's important for people to note is that domestic violence is not only limited to actual physical violence. It also encompasses psychological abuse, financial abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and it can extend as far as somebody who continuously stalks you, harasses you, or even just demands money from you. All of those things are forms of abuse and recognized as abuse in the Domestic Violence Act in South Africa.
Yes, very trying times. We've got people forced to live and not leave the house, living together. Very, very stressful, and putting into the mix no cigarettes, no alcohol, people cracking under these circumstances.
Yes, it's a very unfortunate situation.
So anybody wanting to get help, do you suggest possibly counseling or go straight to a lawyer?
The very interesting thing about domestic violence is that you don't even need a lawyer to assist you, as much as a lawyer would gladly assist you, but it's tailored in such a way that it's accessible to all people. So every magistrate's court has a family court section and a domestic violence section as well. And most magistrates' court have a domestic violence section. And basically what a person can do who is experiencing any sort of abuse can go into a magistrate's court in their jurisdiction and ask for the relevant forms. They will then have to fill out basically a statement under oath, an affidavit of everything that they have experienced, the abuse that they have experienced in detail, and they will go before a magistrate just by themselves, and the magistrate will then, if they believe their story on a balance of probabilities, will grant an interim protection order. And that interim protection order will then be served on the respondent, who is the abuser in the situation, with a return date, and that person will have an opportunity to come back to court and give their side of the story. And if they choose not to, then on the next date, the order will be made final. As much as people do say that it's just a piece of paper, it has been seen as a great deterrent, because once an interim order is in place, or a final order, but even just the interim order is in place, if that person commits any contravention of that protection order, they will immediately be arrested.
Sure. There's a lot to consider here. If you are fearful of your partner, taking that step, going to the court, filling out those documents. Is there a cost involved? First of all, is there a cost?
If you are going through an attorney, there will possibly be cost implications. But if you are doing it by yourself, the court is the court will not charge you. The one charge that you may have is if you have to serve the document via the sheriff, but in most cases you can serve via the SAPS. So the SAPS in your jurisdiction will serve the document on the respondent. It is a big step to take because, as you said, many people are still living in that in the situation with the perpetrator of violence, but it is also a deterrent to know that you have some sort of protection, and if you pick up the phone, the police should be there and they should immediately, upon you producing the interim protection order, arrest the perpetrator if they've contravened that order.
Okay, so yes, going back into that home situation after having been to court, the person gets served, and hopefully that does not flare the situation.
Realistically, it is a very difficult situation, practically, that we experience. But the order can be drafted in such a way that the respondent is not allowed to enter a certain part of the home, so not the whole home in its entirety, but maybe a certain room or a certain part of the house, so that the applicant, the complainant, the person who is experiencing the abuse can have their safe space. But if somebody is not ready to take that step, because it is a big step to take, and I understand that there are many considerations. There are helplines available. Government has put in place helplines because during this lockdown, domestic violence has increased exponentially. But what I would also suggest is that anybody who is experiencing domestic violence, keep a journal, a diary, or even just maybe send emails or WhatsApp messages to yourself or to somebody that you trust, and keep a record of all the abuse that you are experiencing, so that when you are ready, you have dates and times and actual experiences to document and take before the court, which is going to make your case that much easier.
It's wonderful advice. Thank you, Ness. We can go on. Thank you for joining us today, and we certainly will share that helpline number. Thank you. And to the viewers out there, thank you for joining us for another episode. If you have a domestic issue of violence, whether it be physical abuse or mental abuse or financial abuse, please use the number that's shared with you on your screen. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Vuvuzela, and follow us on our social media channels and visit our website on www.thevuvuzela.co.za. Until next time.